recording? Are we on air?
Okay.
Yeah, on the air.
So, we're here with Georgina Rose, also known as Daat Darling. Do you want to tell us something about yourself? Who you are, what you do?
I'm Georgina Rose. I go by Daat Darling on the internet. I'm an American Thelemite and Western esotericism blogger. I'm a practitioner myself, and I go on the internet to commentate and share sort of information about mysticism for people who are curious about it. I mostly do like entry-level beginner stuff so that people sort of have somewhere to begin their research, because that's always kind of a difficult place to be in, right? It's that period. And it's sort of grown into that. And I just talk a lot about this type of occult mysticism stuff.
Perfect. That's great. Are you how old are you, if you mind me asking? You are young, right?
Yeah, I'm in my early 20s.
That's great. Mm-hmm. That's great. And do you sometimes feel that gets in the way? I mean, do people look at you differently because of how young you are?
Yeah, it depends on the person. I've definitely had people since I'm younger, not take me as seriously or, see me as someone who doesn't know much, which I guess it makes sense. I mean, I'm younger. People have had less time to study who are my age, but most of the time people aren't too difficult with it, right? Because everyone kind of starts somewhere. But I'm definitely in most like occult spaces, one of the youngest people there, if not the youngest person there, pretty consistently.
But you've been in a Thelemite for a long time?
Yeah, for a while. I got interested in like esotericism, I think it's 6 years ago now. Mm-hmm. And I got into Thelema a little later. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I've been involved with Thelema for like a pretty long time now. And I've been talking about it online for over 2 years. So yeah.
2 years. Well, that's a lot. I mean, online, that's a lot of time. So we do have a list of questions here.
Absolutely.
Of course, we can get out of this schedule, right? No problem about that. But we will begin. You want to say something?
Yeah, feel free if you want to.
Of course.
Yes, to
deviate. Deviate as you wish. By the way,
do your will.
By the way, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Okay, so here goes. You mentioned that you got into magic with a desire to change your life. Did magic work for you from the beginning?
Yeah, so when I first got into this stuff, I was looking into like self-improvement, self-help type stuff, and a lot of it had spiritual implications. So I started looking at, spiritual material, and then I sort of fell down the rabbit hole. And it worked pretty early on. I remember I tried like some sigils really quickly, and I was like, oh wait, this is working. And I kind of tested it a few times, because the first time something worked, I was like, no way this actually works. That's crazy. And then I kept experimenting with it, and it kept working, and I stuck with it. I was like, well, if it's working, it must be true, right? And I kind of have gone further and further, and that's continued to be my experience.
That's great. That's awesome. I mean, yeah, magic works. You mentioned sigils.
Yes.
Is that something you got from maybe chaos magic or?
Yeah, when I was first into it, I wasn't specifically into Thelema because I didn't know all that. I didn't know the different types of paradigms that existed. I just knew like I kind of put it all in one box in my head, and then I realized as I learned more, like, oh wait, there's a bunch of different systems, a bunch of different traditions. And so at first I was kind of just into like general stuff, and sigils. I did do some like chaos magic sigil stuff. So I guess I did get it from that, but I kind of just approached it as a whole. And then when I came across Thelema, the thing that I liked about it is that it gave a reason why people are doing things. I really liked like true will and the great work as a sort of reasoning. And I liked that it had a philosophic kind of undertone to it that I found that a lot of systems kind of didn't. Because I felt like Thelema kind of gave a reason to do magic, not just like, this is what you do, right? It kind of gave a why, which was something that I definitely wanted. I wanted a little bit of structure and reasoning for why I'm doing what I'm doing,
What you're trying to say, if I understand correctly, is that while you can do sigils and different types of magic, well, that gives results, I mean, like, results magic, that you found in Thelema concerning the true will and the great work, a meaning, something...
Yeah, it felt like it was a reason to do something, a purpose, which is something that I really wanted, because I didn't like just doing magic to do magic. I wanted a reasoning behind it, right? I wanted to know, like, what is this leading to? What is this for?
Yes. Sometimes even understanding that helps you understand why magic works as well, and how it works. Well, that's what I think, at least.
Yeah.
So about your first experiences in magic, this is the second question. It says here, starting your magic in Appalachia. Is this the right way to pronounce this? Appalachia?
Yeah, that's close.
Okay, how do you say it?
Appalachia is the English pronunciation.
Okay. Starting your magic in Appalachia with Appalachian folk magic. Is there some of it in your current practice?
A little bit, not much. That's kind of where I began, because I at the beginning, I was like, I want to see whatever. I was just interested in like occultism generally, right? So that's where I was living. And so I was like, oh, this is what's here. So I kind of, just naturally was like, okay, this makes sense. I'm here. So I learned it. I didn't stick with it. I ended up switching to Thelema pretty quickly because I liked that Thelema gave meaning to things. I still do some of it here and there, but it's not like a central part of what I do at this point. I don't really talk about it often because it's just not something that, has really entered where my current spiritual practice is. Because it's changed. I think everyone who's into this stuff knows like your spiritual journey is very literally a journey, right? It changes, it evolves. I'm sure what I'm doing in 5 years from now is going to be very different from what I'm doing now. And I think that's sort of the natural progression of things.
This is a little deviation from the last question, but do you maybe think that there are lesser types of magic currents, or do you think Thelema is superior to other systems in any way?
I think that there are definitely some systems that are better than others. I'm not sure what would be like the ultimate best system, because I don't know everything about the universe. I'm trying to figure that out through mysticism. So I don't think I can say with exact certainty what is like the best pinnacle of truth, right? I feel like we're all kind of figuring that out together, right? That's what we're doing when we do mysticism. But I think there are some systems that just make more sense than others, some that I think have stronger results than others, right? Like I wouldn't say they're all equal, but I don't know exactly what's like the best of the best, If I could figure that out though, I'd like to know.
Okay, next question. When you talk about Crowley, you mention hedonism as something that held him back from discovering his true will. What do you see as the main enemy today towards finding our true will or connecting with our essence?
Yeah, I think the thing that holds us back the most is we want to choose our current patterns of existence over what our true will be. Because often, like, your true will require you to do things, to change things, right? It's typically not like the exact life we're living, because I think all of us fall into, toxic patterns, unhealthy behaviors, make bad choices, right? I know I certainly have done some things that are not in line with my true will, had some habits that I need to break past and get past. And doing that is sometimes hard, right? Like true will to get there is difficult. And I think like we sometimes are kind of afraid to drop things that no longer help and benefit us in order to reach our true will, right? We like our habits. And we sometimes like we like magic, but to do magic, you obviously have to change. And I think that change can be really difficult for people. And it varies person to person what things are holding us back, I would say. But I think that not like unwillingness to change would be probably the key thing that kind of aligns everyone.
I'm sure you've heard about this. Or you have experienced this, but the concept of true will can be very much used to anyone's convenience.
Oh yeah.
Will can mean we have encountered this countless times here. I'm doing my true will, and okay. And you don't see that in the person who says that, it's like perhaps a difference between doing what you want and doing the true will, because more than often doing your true will is not doing what you want. I think that's what you're trying to say.
Yes, exactly. I think that we mistake that a lot. I think it's really easy to look into true will and be like, okay, so that means I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. I think it's an easy trap to fall into, but that's typically not the true will for, I would say, most of the time for most people.
And do you think that maybe this is something that attracts the wrong people to Thelema sometimes?
Yeah, I think it does cause problems in Thelema, because I think some people hear the phrase, do what thou wilt, and they're like, well, that means I can do anything I want whenever. And they kind of use that as an excuse to do like stuff that's just not good for themselves or for the community. And I always try to like drill down in people's minds, like will is not want. They are not the same, because I think that kind of dodges the problem. But there certainly is a tendency of people who are attracted to Thelema who are not, they're attracted to what they think Thelema is and not what Thelema actually is, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it happens a lot down here as well. Anything else you want to ask about this concept of about free will?
No, by the moment.
Okay, not for now, but we may go back to true will later on. Next question. In your recent video about mysticism, you talk about attention as something we lack due to our modern way of life. How important do you think it is in magic to train our attention?
Critical. Incredibly critical. I think that there's no way you can affect what's outside of your mind if you can't control your mind first. Pretty much every magical tradition is going to tell you to learn to meditate, to work on your focus. I feel like if you don't have that, if you're not paying attention in the ritual, how can you be, doing the ritual to its fullest potential? I think focus is incredibly important. And I think that it's something we should all be developing, because I think a lot of people don't have the best focus. I know I had to work on it when I was new. And when I worked on that, I noticed I got better results. So I would say it's important.
You made me think about the last question about true will, because, attention can mean what you are saying in a more immediate sense, like paying attention in the ritual and being present, almost like in a Gurdjieff way. Do you think that learning or advancing in the path could perhaps involve more, how do you say this, taking out things that do not belong more than incorporating new things? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I get what you mean. I think you definitely need to get rid of things in order to bring new things in, right? I feel like if you're constantly bringing stuff in, that's going to cause a problem. If you're constantly purging and getting rid of stuff, that would also cause a problem. I think you need balance. And I think that, you need to do both.
That's right. Yes. Anything else here?
Perfect.
Do we move on to the next question?
Yes.
Okay. All right. In your number 5, there's not many questions we can talk about. We can improvise later on.
Yes.
In your daily practice video, you mentioned L.V.X. along with Star Ruby, Liber Reguli, and the middle pillar, but also affirmations. Which other main practices do you find enrich your path?
Yeah, I find that my daily practice kind of shifts. It's every couple of seasons, I'll change it out. I'll mix things up. I think that a daily practice is very important. I stand by this belief. I think that different people are going to want different daily practices depending on what they're working on and what their goals are and what their tradition is. I just listed a bunch of possibilities to help get people thinking and get people being like, okay, wait, this is something I could do. This is something I might want to do. I think depending on what you're doing, it will vary what you want to do in your daily practice. And it'll change with time as your practice changes.
We just mentioned rituals like, Liber-Resh, Star Ruby, Liber Reguli, middle pillar. You could consider all of them rituals. It's clear that rituals are of the most importance for the path. But what about, or do you think there's a difference between rituals and inner work? I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say here.
I know what you mean. Yeah, the inner work. I know what you mean.
Do you think? Yes.
I think that what defines a ritual is something that I guess could be a long conversation. I guess certain things that are part of the inner work, like contemplation, I guess those are not rituals per se, but I think that rituals and the inner work are going to overlap, and it's going to depend on, what type of thing makes something a ritual, right? Like, is deep meditation where you start doing something like pathworking, is that a ritual? Is a ritual just when you're doing movement? Like, I feel like that's kind of a complicated question, and one that it's like, I'm not entirely sure the line is. I think both the rituals and inner work are both important, though. I think you should be doing both.
Yes, absolutely. Perhaps my question had to do with the fact that many times we find people along the path who think that just making rituals might be enough. Like the ritualizing movements, affirmations, phrases, etc. Already are enough to get things moving inside. And then you watch how their lives develop, and it's like, I don't think those rituals are working for you, brother. But well, but then, as you say, I think they do overlap. It's like you can't have rituals without inner work, and you can't have inner work without rituals, because if you're just dedicated to inner work, it's like, you know, all goes inside. It's much more of a mystic way, not only contemplation perhaps, or being present, or even attention, but rituals, I think, help to get something out as well. That's what I think. I don't know.
Yes.
Oh, I totally agree. I think that if you're just doing rituals to do them, I mean, why are you doing the rituals, right? Crowley defined magic as I'm paraphrasing, use will to change things. You're not doing change if you're not seeking out change, if you're not thinking about what do I need to change. I mean, you're just going through the motions, right? That's, I mean, at that point, like, what is the ritual doing? What is it serving? What is the purpose behind it? I think that if you don't do the inner work, your rituals are going to not do that much, because you're not doing the rituals for a specific reason. You're doing them to do them. And I think that misses a lot of the point. Your inner work should be guiding what you're doing, right? I mean, like you should know why you're doing what you're doing, I feel like, in magic. And that's why the inner work is important, why it can't be skipped.
That actually has a lot to do, or everything to do with true will, actually, I think. You know, why are you doing what you are doing? So, let's question.
Yes.
Yes?
Sí, sí.
Okay. Did you get temporarily banned in 2020 from TikTok for showing a lighter?
I did, yes. I got banned for a week.
Wait. Where do you think this cancel trend is going?
Yeah, so I was banned for a week from TikTok for showing a lighter. What it was a video of me lighting, you know, those like big 7-day candles in the glass jars with the pictures on them. Yeah, so I was lighting one of those, and the lighter was considered a dangerous act for some reason because there's fire. I don't know. I remember seeing this like account notification go through, and
but did you get banned because someone denounced that video, or was it something like automatic from TikTok?
That one was automatic. I have had issues with broader cancel culture, though, other times. I think that the cancel culture stuff is pretty bad. I think it's leading us in a bad direction. And I think within Thelema, it's a very bizarre thing, because Thelema, in Liber Oz, it says man has the right to speak what he will, think what he will. We have this big belief in liberty. And I think it's a little hypocritical to be spouting all that and then be policing each other on what we do and say on the internet. I feel like it's a little, I don't know, it just doesn't completely line up in my brain. It feels a little just ideologically incoherent.
Yeah, it's complicated because in one way, Thelema has been always very, como diríamos, rupturista. Disrupted, yeah. I mean, from the get-go, right? So in times of oppression, Thelema would have been, you know, like the weapon. I mean, nowadays, lots of these are reivindications, which most of them I think we can agree with. It's not like we don't, but there's a revolution going on which might have its unbalances, and it gets translated into this cancel culture, which we are talking about here. And just like you said, Liber Oz, I mean, what the hell is going on here? It's for Thelemites telling Thelemites what they should or shouldn't do. It's kind of odd. Yeah. Do you guys want to say something else about this? It's a very hot topic here.
It's a very hot topic, yes. Talking about this culture, this cancel, which is the situation in the esoteric world in your country, on what kind of situations can you see or to experiment with this new situation, no? With the cancel culture. It's a problem, or it is not a problem?
I think it is a problem because it's starting to bleed into the like real life, like occult spaces, because what's happened is people will decide, it happens a lot with specific practices that people do, like, you know, using specific techniques, doing specific things. People will decide that they're bad. And then like, it'll get, basically, if people keep talking about it, they get in trouble, right? And they get canceled, they get a lot of backlash. And this has started bleeding into the real world, right? Like local stores won't stock certain books. They won't, like their rituals, they'll pull things out of an edit. And I think that becomes a bit of a problem because, you know, I think that the rituals are a bit more important than, you know, what makes people mildly uncomfortable. It's just, it's weird. It's strange to see people who are occultists who claim to be people on the fringes, right? People who are pushing boundaries and being disruptive, as you said, but they're policing each other in such a rigid way. I see it as kind of ironic in a way.
Well, the oppressed become the oppressor sometimes. Happens a lot. But have you seen other examples of practitioners who have been canceled or?
Oh yeah, it happens all the time. I would say mine was probably more severe than most because I kind of said I think cancel culture is dumb and just kind of said that, which was a bold statement. I mean, I think people were kind of very bothered that I did that, but I see it happen a lot. Recently, the thing that's really strange to me is Kabbalah has become like a cancelable thing to talk about, and I've seen Thelemites sharing this, which doesn't make any sense to me because a lot of the Thelemic rituals have Kabbalah in them. And so I'm like, how are you canceling people for Kabbalah than doing Kabbalah? It's just a blatant, hypocrisy.
In what sense are they canceling Kabbalah right now? This is new to us. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So in America, basically people have started saying that since Kabbalah is originally from Judaism, if you're not Jewish, you shouldn't incorporate it. And so people have been writing like little zines. And a book came out about Kabbalah I think it was called Kabbalah for Wiccans. And like the entire first chapter had this like lengthy disclaimer and was like, Kabbalah is a sacred thing. And you need to be it was a whole like self disclaimer. Like, please do not cancel me for this. I'm doing this for this reason. And they've made zines. There's like hundreds of posts, there's podcasts, there's videos. It's crazy. Yeah. And then I see Thelemite sharing it and it doesn't make sense to me.
They are having us apologize before we say anything. That's what you're saying, basically.
Yeah, basically. You have to like do these lengthy disclaimers and apologies before you even talk. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not someone who's going to do that. But it's a thing that people are doing, which worries me. Because if you're doing that, you're clearly kind of scared to talk about what you're talking about. And to think that talking about, like, if you believe in Kabbalah is true, whether or not it's problematic to talk about it or not. Like, it wouldn't change the existence of it. It's bizarre to me. I don't like it. I think that it's a bit concerning, actually.
That this is new to us. News. Okay. Anything else about this? I mean, we will keep talking about this, but in particular to some maybe examples of people who have get canceled or anything like that. Okay. Next question. It's related. Why do you think that Crowley is unavoidable in Thelema? I mean, why do books still get written about Crowley if he can be, sidestepped? Why is he relevant? Is he necessary for Thelema?
Yeah, I think that the thing is, whether you like Crowley or not, you can't remove him because Thelema began with him. And a lot of Thelemic ideas come from him. I think to talk about Thelema without talking about Crowley is it's a difficult task. I don't think Crowley needs to be the center of everything. I don't think we need to only talk about Crowley. I think we should talk about other things, but I don't think you can remove Crowley. I think to do that is kind of it's a hopeless cause and it's never going to work because if you want to try that to remove Crowley fully, you're just kind of creating a new system, which if you want to do that, that's fine. But at that point, is it really Thelema? So I think it's kind of a difficult task to do and a bit of a waste of time. I don't think we should, only talk about Crowley or, act like he's, completely perfect and flawless and is the only thing that matters in the world. Like that's silly too. But I just think he's impossible to remove. And I've looked at people's attempts to kind of remove Crowley. And every time I found it falls flat anyways. It's never that interesting. It always ends up basically coming back to Crowley anyways. And so...
because it's fun. I mean...
if someone can attempt it and do it successfully, I'd be curious as to what they can put out. But as of now, it just hasn't happened. I think Crowley also will continue to be discussed and written about because he was so influential. His ideas changed occultism. Whether you like him or not, they did. And I think to not talk about Crowley, I mean, it's not going to educate you fully. Like we spell magic with a K because of Crowley, right? Even that, like Crowley's influence is everywhere in modern occultism is unavoidable. So I think we should continue to discuss him. I don't think he should be the focus of literally everything ever, but he was so influential. There's no way to take him out. There's no way to remove his impact.
una cosita.
Sí.
For me, like a simple Thelemite, to speak about Telema without Crowley is like to say the sky without stars.
Yeah, I think it does eventually kind of come to that realization if you think about it for long enough.
Yeah, also, anything that you exclude from existence, sooner or later comes back at your face, it explodes at your face. So it's like you say, we don't have to accept Crowley. It's not that we have to agree with everything he said or has done. Even you have talked about his hedonism as something that could have been something that got in the way for him to reach his true will. I mean, we don't have to agree with everything, but to remove him kind of doesn't make any sense at all. Besides,
Absolutely.
why do it when he's such a colorful character? I mean, it's so interesting. I don't agree with lots of things that Crowley said or did, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I think there's this weird understanding that some people have is like, if you discuss a figure, it means you must agree with everything they said, which is just not true. I disagree with Crowley on a number of things, but I still think he's important. And he is fascinating. Just his life is fascinating. His story is fascinating. He's a valuable character to discuss. And I think, how can you even form an opinion on Crowley if you don't read him and if you don't look at what he did, Have
you seen other historical characters removed like Crowley, or are you afraid that it may happen with other important figures?
Yeah, I think it could. I've seen people get mad at Gerald Gardner from Wicca, and recently Dion Fortune has become one that people are mad about, which the Dion Fortune one feels very random to me because she seems pretty. She's not a provocateur like Crowley, right? She run around saying some of the stuff Crowley did.
It's so vanilla, right?
Yeah, she's very vanilla. Nothing she said was really that out there or provocative. I mean, her books are great. I love her books, but she's a weird one to target. So yeah, I think if we get rid of Crowley, it's going to continue and it's going to keep happening. And I think it's kind of just, I don't know. I think we should read these people and, just go in with the mindset of you can disagree with things. That's fine. You don't need to fully remove something to just have like this realization, like, wait, I can read something and not blindly agree with every single thing it says, right? It's completely possible to do that.
The only thing I can think about is that, I don't know, maybe they consider her to be right-hand path, maybe, and they could be canceling her for something like that. That's the only thing I can think of. I mean, Dion Fortune would be at the bottom of my list of someone I could think could be canceled. Anyways, and about canceling, there's a question I omitted, but it's here. Why do you think postmodern Thelemites are not cancelled no matter what they say? For example, about women.
I mean, that is something that I like to rant about.
A polemic point.
I think it's a good point. I think that, yeah, I mean, it seems like if you put something within the right, like, framing, people will be okay with it. Even if it was in a different framing, they'd be mad at it. It seems to be like it's how you do the narrative seems to be the way you do it. If you say something egregious about women within this narrative of like postmodern progressivism, then people are like, oh, that's cool. But if you say it in a different narrative that's bad, I think it's bad either way. I think that, you just shouldn't say stuff like that. But, people will accept it depending on how you say it. It's interesting. I feel like people choose narratives over truth very often.
Well, very much related to doing what you want instead of following your true will. It's all related.
Absolutely. It all connects. It really does.
Yeah. It's nowadays in cancel culture, it's very easy to say this guy or this girl is right-wing, this one is left-wing, this one is leftist, this one is a Nazi. I myself consider myself left-wing, and yet I don't agree at all with cancel culture and everything that's going on in that sense. So I totally understand where you're coming from here.
Absolutely. I think that not all left-wing people agree with cancel culture, and there are a lot of people from many stances who believe in different things, but it seems like online and in the community, sometimes that gets forgotten, that nuance gets forgotten. And people, if they call you a label they don't like, they use that as an excuse to not address your points, right? People will call me like right wing and then use that as like, well, I'll never address anything she says because she's right wing. And I'm like, well, that's not answering my critiques. That's not listening to what I have to say. That's just saying that word that you don't like to avoid listening to anything. And
it's like they label you. They put a label on you and nothing else is possible beyond that.
Yeah, and sometimes the labels aren't even accurate. I think that some people just call people things that they don't like just to, label them beneficial. I think that discovering true will can kind of break us out of these unhealthy ways of life that we're living, right? Because our true will shake our way of life and make us more happy, fulfilled people. And as well, I think that it can give us meaning and purpose and obviously, make changes in our lives that we need to make. I think that can break us out of this kind of lull that I think a lot of people are living in and break them out of that. I think it's really beneficial now in particular because it is a time when I think people need spirituality more than they would in other times, because I would say we are living through kind of a hard period. And I think most people can recognize that.
Right now we are, even though we are surrounded by war and all sorts of, we had COVID, etc. However, we are talking to you and you make videos, and it's like anyone who wants to access occultism today or magic, etc., has it much easier than in other times. What do you think about that? I mean, orders in general, and some occultists, even if they are not affiliated to an order, some of them tend to think that we have to keep the secret. We don't have to. The spice must not flow. Yet there's many other practitioners who do believe that the spice must flow and that the knowledge has to be shared. That doesn't mean that only by sharing something the other one will become a magician from one day to the other, or anything like that. But what do you think about this tendency we see nowadays about sharing the information, the knowledge?
Yeah, I think that at this point, it's already shared. Like I feel like you can see it as a positive or a negative, but I think it's already happened. I think that a lot of this stuff is public information now. A lot of group secrets have been leaked. If you know where to find them, a lot of them have been posted just to the internet. A lot of these occult traditions people are talking about publicly. I'm talking about it publicly, right? There's a lot of books. I feel like putting the cat back in the bag would be very difficult. I think that it's just I think the question really is, how do we move forward as a community now that everything's available, right? I think that there are good and bad things about what's happened. I don't think it's wholly good or wholly bad. I think the big bad part of it is that people are going to do things that they're not ready for. And it makes it harder for groups that do want to keep their secret to actually keep them secret, right? It makes it harder for those groups to do that secrecy, and it creates challenges, and people will do stuff they're not ready for. On the other side, people who don't live near orders can now do magic. Like if you live in some rural area, it's accessible to you. And on the other bright side, we have access to information that occultists centuries ago would kill to have, right? So it's complicated. I don't think it's wholly bad or wholly good. I think moving forward is the question. I think that order groups are going to struggle to keep their information secret because it's so easy to leak stuff now. And I think for them, they need to find out ways to make that work for them and ways to move forward. But I think I think the release of information has already happened. Yes. I think that there's is it going to happen? It has. It's just, what do we do now is I think the real question.
Yeah. Besides, what is the secret? The secret is not something that you can tell. You can read a ritual, you can read an initiation, for example, right? And that doesn't mean that you're getting anything, because there's something about the direct experience, about being initiated by a group of... I'm not even talking about getting an initiation from an authorized person. Could come from anyone, but it's much different from just reading stuff and believing that you are something because you just read about it.
Yeah, no, reading something and doing something is not the same thing. Just reading some big ritual doesn't mean you're going to get the effects. You have to actually do the thing.
just do it. Okay, I think that's pretty much all the questions we have, unless
Yes.
you want to ask anything else.
I have a question.
Absolutely.
Yes. Sometimes, when you are performing magic, you're, feeling very much the ritual and having real connection with your imagination, and sometimes you take a lot of time, and sometimes you make it quicker. And how do you feel about getting your emotions when you're performing? Because sometimes quick magic can be more effective than if you are, having half an hour to do a ritual and you can do it in 10 minutes. What do you think about? Do you get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. I think different situations call for different things, and I think there are often multiple ways to get a result. I think sometimes the simple rituals will do great, and sometimes you need the longer rituals. I think that getting into the ritual, I just try to give my full attention and full self to it, right? I just try to surrender to the experience, and then typically the emotions kind of flow through me. I try to basically not be analytically thinking am I doing this? Am I I got to do this next? I do this. I just try to give into the experience. That's my personal method. I know people have different things that work for them, but I just have to throw myself into it and just do that and be fixated on it instead of thinking am I doing this perfectly? Is this completely correct? I just sometimes I just try to surrender. I think that that's a question though that's different for each people because our brains all work a little differently. And I've noticed that what's interesting is sometimes you'll see a ritual performed by two different people and it'll be slightly different. So I think that's going to vary person to person, but that's my advice. If you think like me, what'll work for you.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, there's something about believing what you are doing. I mean, getting completely involved with it. Even the dramatic aspect of it is very important. But that's what I believe. It's not the same if you make a ritual, oh, here we are, this, that, or if you are almost like a movie. I mean, it's dramatic arts are.
I think you need to believe you're doing. You need to have the intention for it to work. I think those are two important things that will help you a lot.
The intention is all.
No, intention is not all. Intention is the first part of it.
Intention is not everything. I will clarify that. I think that intention is important, but it's not everything.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
No.
Well, let me say that I'm very impressed with you because you are so young and you have the concept so clear. And felicitarlo.
Congratulations.
His congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
And let me say too that if any day, if you consider to visit us here in this part of the world, I can invite you. When I say invite, in all the sense of the word invite.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. If I'm ever in Argentina, I'll let you guys know.
Okay, perfect.
Well, if any day you consider to visit, the only you have to do is to tell us and we can work with the situation.
We'll arrange everything.
We will arrange everything, okay.
So,
thank you very much
yes.
for your time, but we don't want abuse of your time. We suppose you have
Things to
unless you want to ask something.
If you want to add something, to say something.
I'll ask you guys one question and then I'll head out because I have something to do later today. Or nothing exciting. My question is, what is sort of the goal of your group? What are you guys aiming to do?
Do you want to reply that?
No, el punto central.
Well, I think that the point, any Thelema group should have, I believe, basically the same objective, which is to do your true will. But that, like we said before, true will in the sense of not doing what you want, but working on yourself, becoming a better, a life of conscious. Becoming better people, not in the that's right, not in the mundane sense, but he just said something that is very interesting to me, to be coherent between what you think and what you do, which has a lot to do with working on your true will, I believe. We sometimes say here that when you are in the path, if you are really in the path, it's like a karma accelerator, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, stuff that could perhaps be happening to you like in 20 years is going to be happening to you right now. And you get there faster, but you have to be ready and you have to want that. So change is like unavoidable, absolutely. And we have seen, I mean, some of us have been in different groups, and we currently are part of different groups apart from Thelema groups. But this is something that is common to all currents, I believe. Change is unavoidable, and well, those of us who look for change and who look to get better, I insist, not just in a mundane way, but also in a mundane way, because I mean, we will want to be better in the community, better. We want to be a better world. I think Thelema has to do with that as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but not everybody thinks or understands that, you know, because true will sometimes can be as well interpreted as something individualistic, you know, in a full sense, or egotistic. How do you say that? Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, well, in some ways, true will is a very personal thing. But if you are doing your true will, you are helping everything around you. That's what I believe, at least.
Absolutely, I completely agree.
It's like the people around you smell this. You change in a better way, and this affects everything around. Some people, well, you know, they run away, but if they do, that's better, because they had to run away now. I mean, it's better for them to run away now and not later. You know, if you understand what I'm saying.
It was great meeting you guys. Thank you for having me on your little show.
Yeah.
Thank you to you. Thank you very much. And well, keep in touch if you.
Yeah, let me know when you post the show, and I'll share it around.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
We will.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye.
The will shall be the whole of the law.
Love is the law. Love under will.
93.
93.
93.